Hello everyone, and welcome to this video. Today's topic, I am going to discuss a little bit about the Asura. This is also known as a topic, not related, okay, because everyone's going to have a different name for what they experience. But this is under the topic of the Guardian of the Threshold. And it's a widely misinterpreted and misunderstood topic that even myself has very much misunderstood and misinterpreted over the years. But I believe that it is for a purpose as part of spiritual training and self-reflection and learning about yourself. So when I had the experience with, there's two guardians, it says, in the book that I am referencing from, which is called Knowledge of the Higher Worlds and Its Attainment on Consciousness, Dream Life, and Initiation by Rudolf Steiner. On page 77, under the Greater Guardian of the Threshold, there are two guardians. So it says, the important experiences marking the student's ascent into the higher worlds, or higher dimensions, includes his meeting with the guardian of the threshold. Strictly speaking, there are two guardians, a lesser and a greater. The greater meets the lesser, or the student meets the lesser guardian when the threads connecting the willing, feeling, and thinking within the finer astral and etheric bodies begin to loosen in a way described in the foregoing chapter. So there are many other chapters before this one, which helps you to form a greater understanding of the whole subject, because in the previous chapter, it even talks about the splitting of the human personality during spiritual training, which is very much true. So when it talks about here with the connecting of the willing, feeling, and thinking, it brings me back to just being open to the wanting to learn, the hunger for knowledge and knowing, to understand, myself and life and the things that were going on around me. And, I was thinking about things at the time. At the time when this started, I was very open-minded about the whole subject of extraterrestrials, aliens, and beings or people from somewhere else. And I think that goes through you energetically. If thoughts become things, which is definitely so, and, these thoughts, feelings, and actions, create your reality, then it also goes deeper within. And I think sometimes that, I don't know if I've mentioned enough, but I have seen in my studies that the spirit world is sometimes referred to as the mirror world, and it will reflect back to you. Or rather, your dream time will be a mirror world, and it will reflect back to you. Because a lot of people talk about the subconscious, and it does have a great deal to do with this, if not everything to do with this. And in my studies, I have read that the subconscious is like this higher self we talk about, this future version of you that always is and always was and will be. We're in like a time of remembering. It's awakening, like from a dream, but more of a remembering of things we've already known from past experiences. So sorry I digress, but just let me finish this and then we'll continue. The greater guardian is encountered when this sundering of the connections extends to the physical parts of the body. That is, at first to the brain. That is at first to the brain. The lesser guardian is a sovereign being. He does not come into existence as far as the student is concerned. Like how I thought in the beginning when I saw this that it was an alien. Until the latter has reached the requisite stage of development, or the required stage of development. Only some of his most important characteristics will be indicated here about the lesser guardian. All of them are going to be different because we're all different and we have different experiences, and our subconscious is trying to alert us to different things about ourselves. The attempt will now be made to describe in narrative form this meeting with the lesser guardian of the threshold, as a result of which the student learns that his thinking, feeling, and willing or actions have become released within him from their inherent connection, almost taken on a life of their own. A truly terrible spectral being confronts him, and he will need all the presence of mind and faith in the security of his path, which he has had ample opportunity to acquire in the course of his previous spiritual training and life experiences training. Okay, so the following I'm going to read as the guardian speaking to you. But before I do so, I'd just like to take a moment to think about anything that I'd like to say beforehand. I'd like to say, first of all, that when I first read this, it brought tears to my eyes. And that I had a difficult time reading it out loud because I was crying, because it moved me so emotionally. To realize that when I first saw this being, there was such a familiarity. And I was very overwhelmed. I always go over the place. I was very overwhelmed on the 15th, going like over the experience about how it affected my life. So I wasn't able to completely articulate these things in reflection to this. So I'm glad that I'm able to do this now. When I first saw it, the feeling of familiarity was undeniable. I wasn't sure if that was me, if it was a future version of me. It was very, very familiar. I went through stages of it like I thought, did this thing like siphon off my energy like some type of parasite or a demon, even though I don't like that word, a lower dimensional entity? And in fact, it is an entity born out of the lower dimensions of myself, of my thoughts and feelings, pains, things left unsaid, times I didn't stand up for myself. So if that explanation of what I just read to you about, it says about the lesser guardian is a sovereign being. So basically where thoughts go, energy flows. So that's where all my energy went to create this experience. It took on a life of itself. He does not come into existence, as far as the student is concerned, until the latter has reached the required stage of development. So after I read this, it's going to make more sense. So let's just continue. I'm going to read to you now as the lesser guardian of the threshold. Until this time, powers invisible to thyself watched over thee. They saw to it that in the course of thy lives each of thy good deeds brought its rewards, and each of thine evil deeds was attended by its evil results. Thanks to their influence, thy character formed itself out of thy life experiences and thy thoughts. They were the instruments of thy destiny. They ordained that measure of joy and pain allotted to thee in thine incarnations, according to thy conduct in lives gone by. They ruled over thee as the all-embracing law of karma. These powers will now partly release thee from their constraining influence, and henceforth must thou accomplish for thyself a part of the work which, until this time, they performed for thee. Destiny struck thee many a hard blow in the past. Thou knewest not why. Each blow was the consequence of a harmful deed in a bygone lie. Thou foundest joy and gladness, and thou didst take them as they came. They, too, were the fruits of the former deeds. Thy character shows many a beautiful side, and many an ugly flaw. Thou hast thyself to thank for both, for they are the result of thy previous experiences and thoughts. These were till now unknown to thee. Their effects alone were made manifest. The karmic powers, however, beheld all thy deeds in former lives, and all thy most secret thoughts and feelings, and determined accordingly thy present self and thy present mode in life. But now all the good deeds and evil sides of thy bygone lives shall be revealed to thee. Until this time they were interwoven with thine own being. They were in thee, and thou couldn't see them. Even as thou canst not behold thine own brain with physical eyes. But now they become released from thee. They detach themselves from thy personality. They assume an independent form, which thou canst see even though thou beholdest the stones and plants of the outer world. And I am that very being who shaped out of my body, of thy good and evil achievements. My spectral form is woven out of thine own life's record. Till now thou hast borne me invisibly within thee, and it was well that this was so. For the wisdom of thy destiny, though concealed from thee, could thus work within thee, so that the hideous strains on my form could be blotted out. Now that I have come forth from within thee, that concealed wisdom, too, has departed from thee. It will pay no further heed to thee. It will leave the work in thy hands alone. I must become a perfect and glorious being, or fall a prey to corruption. And should this occur, I would drag thee also down with me into a dark and corrupt world like the lower dimensions. If thou would avoid this, then thine own wisdom must become great enough to undertake the task of that other, the task of that other concealed wisdom which has departed from thee, like you're remembering. As a form invisible to thyself, I will never for an instant leave thy side. Once thou hast crossed my threshold, and in future, wherever thou dost act or think wrongly, thou wilt straightway perceive thy guilt as a hideous, demoniacal distortion of my form. Only when thou hast made good all thy bygone wrongs, and hast so purified thyself that all further evil is, for thee, a thing impossible. Only then will my being have transformed into radiant beauty. Then, too, shall I again become united with thee for the welfare of thy future activity. So basically what this is saying is that at that time, it almost like it does become like this guardian angel type of being. Even though there are two of them, and it does go into further detail, that your lesser guardian can take on more than one form as an expression of self. So, just like I was saying, how one of the beings was blue and the other one was green, indicating also the heart and the throat chakras. Now I fully understand why Elena Danaan said that these beings that I'm talking about here were beings of pain. Because there were many people that were asking her, especially when I started talking about this and came out about it. And this was a few years ago now, but it was in the summer, and she addressed this, and I knew what she was talking about, and now I fully understand the meaning. Because like I was saying earlier, it is a being of the lower dimensions, and a being of that was creation of all those things that I mentioned earlier about pain and those darker negative feelings. I don't need to name them all again. So this experience, it really took me on a journey, and I learned so many things seeking out what I thought was something that was external, outside of me, just because of the shock. And I, it's a long process, and I guess I will have to one day when I'm feeling in the zone with writing again, because I do now understand why people express this in artistic creative form, because it is such a difficult task to translate, especially after so much time has passed and experience has gone by. But I already mentioned about how, I went through thinking it was different things, and it also led to me gaining a lot of knowledge and increasing my intelligence. And um, it was very difficult, but very much worth it. And now that I realize what its purpose all was, the pain of it and the struggle of it, lessen and, begin to heal. That's why I guess I've known about this for some time, but it's taken me a while to process it, and then to be able to express it, because I had to be able to understand it myself. But I remember when this first occurred, that there was nothing that you could have said or done that would have swayed me to believe that it wasn't an alien. That I had seen this thing in my room, and it was in my dream at first, but it led me to, these, like this book is called, these higher worlds, these higher dimensions of thinking, and all these different realms. Um, and then come to understand, about astral travel and all this stuff. So I just wanted to at least try to address it more. So I remember, I don't remember if I digressed. So I talked about the feeling of familiarity when I first saw it, the feeling of unconditional love, overwhelming unconditional love. I thought it was like a family member. There were different things that I mentioned in my original video. And it keeps bringing me back to the fact that someone had commented on one of my videos, which I thought was pretty funny. Um, and it's not in an arrogant, conceited way, but it's true when they said that the comment was, I believe nobody loves Lacey as much as Lacey loves Lacey, and that's true. Um, I'm a Leo, but I just really want to make it clear that I don't walk around thinking that I'm better than other people. I just very much truly do love myself and all that I am. So that's why I was never truly afraid of the Asura. I knew that it wouldn't hurt me. Um, and I always considered it a friend or kin, and it was difficult, to hear people, say these nasty things about it. And I mean, I say that now because I always referred to it in a masculine sense. That also has a reason, um, not in a romantic relationship part, but also just the fact that I've always had this turbulent, unhealthy, unsafe relationship with the masculine energy itself, starting with my father and father figures and stuff like that. Um, so I think it really becomes what you need in a sense, exactly what you need in all ways. Not only to show you these things that you couldn't see about yourself, um, but also, just things for your overall development. It kind of felt like a protector at times, and in a way it is. Um, let's see. So the overwhelming sense of love, kinship, like we had met before, all of those things. And I thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. And it was reflecting that back to me. It had a very vast consciousness. I remember I said that it felt very large on the inside, which is true because it is all of you. Um, and connecting to your divine creator source. So it's I mean, at first it's a little sad. You go through these stages when you understand this. You're just like, oh, it's not an alien. It's not this thing that you can touch and hold, but in a way you can. Because what it goes on to talk about in this book is about how your inner universe or your inner world, when you leave your physical vessel, it becomes your outer world. So this is what your inner world, your imagination, your life on the inside, and your spiritual life has to do with, which takes a lot of time during your sleep time, okay? Your dreams. Now, there's going to be subconscious dreams which are trying to draw attention to, things that you need to interpret, like the teeth falling out dreams and things like this. I've mentioned them in my book, but I know that I've talked about these types of dreams before. Dreams that are strange that don't make any sense. But then there are these more consciously aware lucid dreaming, which does come in stages, and we all do this regardless of where we're at. We just may not be aware of it or remember it when we wake up. But, right. So, no, I am not ashamed to say that I made mistakes in my desperation and attempt to discover what this was. It was so impactful on my life. It totally took my life in a different direction than I expected, but I truly believe that it took me exactly where I wanted to be. Because I always said that I wanted to get out of here, not have to reincarnate here again on Earth, because it was just so awful, for me. And I, ever since I was a little kid, I always wanted to reach this different level of existence. Like I said, I tried to explain it as I always knew there was like this group of superheroes, like, and I don't mean to make you think of like Superman or Batman, not like that, but just like great people that are out there trying to make the universe a better place. And it turns out that they are these higher dimensionals or something like a galactic federation, like I almost called her Galena. Elena Denon talks about something like this, okay? And in my studies with like Manly P. Hall, with the Secret Teachings of the Ages, and some of the works of Rudolf Steiner, I've heard similar things. Especially with Manly P. Hall, he called them supermen and superwomen. So this is what I'm talking about, and I was aware that these people knew about me too. Now, going to the event of the summer of 2017 when I saw the craft, okay? I believe it was July. Um, it's a shame because I lost my Facebook where I had that exactly documented, but I wrote down July of 2017. I just don't think I um, documented the date, unfortunately. Anyway, so when I saw that and I made that conscious connection, like when I was looking at this craft, I was being observed back. I knew I was being looked at. I didn't know how to explain it at first. Thought, oh man, is it the spaceship scanning me? at first, okay? I really thought that. I didn't know that it was like this consciously, spiritually advanced individual, regardless of what they look like. Doesn't matter if they look human or not, and that's a whole other story, okay? Um, because there's gonna be a lot of different races that have existed out there, and there are a ton of different spheres, okay? But the point is that I was being observed back. And when I talked about this before, someone in one of my live stream chats had said that it seems that you were being observed almost like a certain part of like a test or for a certain part of your development, which I agree. And then they will come back at a different time, hopefully, depending on how you do, right? Like they kind of make their presence known and aware and make themselves aware to you as part of your conscious development. Now, that night when that happened to me, I was watching that TED Talk from Russell Targ about extrasensory perception, which is exactly what I was experiencing right at that time with that craft, but I wasn't aware. But I do remember now. It's strange because as a child, I used to call this future connections, and now I'm making all these connections in the future. So it's almost like come around in this great big circle. You know, this started for me when I was very young, when I remember, these strange memories. I didn't know where they came from, these past life things and, you know, being aware of the spirit realm. But then, of course, with going on in life and it tells you to keep your head out of the clouds, those things don't exist and blah, 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 blah. By the time I was, 18 years old, I was ready to put all that behind me because I wanted to grow up and live life, basically, okay? A lot of people have these similar experiences, and this is what Soul School is about. This is what I was talking about from the beginning of when I started to talk about Soul School, that I was recognizing these patterns and cycles with things. So, let's see. Hmm. Give me a moment. Okay. Well, I think that I will leave off by saying that the whole experience with the greater guardian and the lesser guardian of the threshold, okay? Which, if you look at the image that you are seeing at this time, the one that I'm planning on using as the cover for this image, for this audio, okay? The gateway behind the Asura is like a threshold, is it a doorway, okay? And so essentially, when I was drawing that, again, as I said with some of my drawings, it's like I see them on the paper before I begin drawing. So it's almost like tracing it, but that comes from the subconscious. I've done this many, many times. Like with the picture with Osiris, Anubis, and Isis. I didn't know how relevant these things were, but my subconscious was interpreting them for me because all of this is inside of me. I highly recommend these texts, these books rather. I don't mean to sound so so snobby like that. Um, I really recommend them if you can comprehend them. And I'm not trying to say that in an insulting way. It's not going to make sense to you if you don't have prior experience with these things. And the experience when it happened to me, it does seem very, very, very supernatural, paranormal, and extraordinary. And indeed it is, but it isn't what I initially thought it was, and that is totally okay because it got me exactly where I wanted to be anyway. It has its ups and downs, I will agree, and it's very individualized. It's not going to be the same for two people. They're all going to experience things differently because not everybody has had a life like mine. So your lesser guardian may not be the same, or it might show you different things. Um, and again, there are other kinds of experiences too with different things of the lower dimensions, but that's going to be a whole other realm of discussion. But yeah, I believe what is inside your little universe, which is your microcosm, will reflect back to you in the outer universe or your macrocosm. And right, I think that's as far as I can go with that. It, like I was saying, your inner world becomes your outer world, and you have to go in to get out. I was always saying that, and you do have to go down to go up. You know, if I didn't go through these lower dimensions, as they say, it's, it really is like climbing a ladder into the clouds, like Jacob's ladder. But, if I didn't, then I wouldn't be prepared for what comes next. This spiritual training is much, much more than I ever anticipated, and I'm extremely grateful. Okay? So, and I look forward to what comes next. That's what I was going to finish up to say. Right. So the book again is called Knowledge of the Higher Worlds and Attainment, Unconsciousness, Dream Life, and Initiation by Rudolf Steiner. And the chapter I read was from page 77 called The Guardian of the Threshold. I will put a handful of very helpful links to understand the topic from some people that just over the past couple days I've been listening to. The female, I forget her name, I apologize, but she was the most helpful. But the other ones have good stuff in them too. I'm not saying that they have no worth. So I'm going to leave that down below for you, as well as the book that I'm reading in probably a PDF format, or just a link with the Internet Archive or whatever. So please look in the description below for that, for further learning and understanding. And I will see you soon. I will schedule a live stream this afternoon. Not for this afternoon, but for very soon. Okay? Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for being here. I wish you a wonderful day, and take care. I'll talk to you later. Bye.